Hi guys, I'm Kendra Pimentel. I'm a senior here at Bridgewater. I'll be graduating in a few weeks, and my internship was at Durfee High School in Fall River. I worked in the guidance office. On Mondays, I would work in the senior office, and Wednesdays, I would work in the sophomore office. And the point of me doing that was just to see how the guidance department has different focuses depending on which grade you're working in. So for the senior office, there was a lot of stressing absences and making sure that people were like ready academically to graduate, making sure your MCAS scores were good enough to graduate and walk the stage. There were a lot of students that just could not pass the MCAS, so they were just trying tirelessly to get them all the help they needed. And a lot of like SAT prep and a lot of like letters of recommendation and college paperwork. The senior office was very, very busy. Like they were always running around frantically. They had so much to do. For the sophomore office, it was a little more lax because it was mostly just making sure that students were like enrolled in the credits that they needed to make it to like upperclassmen, making sure they had all their histories and maths they needed to like meet the Massachusetts requirements. Obviously, like prep for MCAS in sophomore year is like the year they start to do that. And sometimes, like if they didn't really have anything for me to do, I would go into the school adjustments office, which was my favorite office to go to. Basically, they handle a lot more serious problems. So, like students that are struggling with like personal problems at home or like mental health concerns, or if they've been like in and out of the hospital for health reasons, like the school adjustment counselor would help make sure they have everything together, keep in contact with certain institutions or their family. And that was my favorite office to be in because the woman that worked there was such a nice woman, and she had a way of making every student feel like they were special and that they were important, and just they just liked to see her. And I just really feel like that would be a really awesome job to have. um Another thing I did pretty often was I helped prepare test administration. So, like, when they box up MCAS stuff, like making sure that each group of kids in each class have enough calculators or dictionaries or anything they need. I even helped, like, read some directions to kids who, like, needed it to be read again. I also helped, like, bag up the SAT tests. It was a really, like, fun experience to do. I could definitely see how working in a school could be very stressful, especially Durfee is such a large school and such a pretty big city in Massachusetts. Um, Certain special cases I can recall are like there's some students that are going to have children in high school, so a lot of their concerns have to do with whether or not they're going to be able to support their kids after they graduate. Sometimes they get distracted with outside problems and they start to lose focus in school. So there was one student in particular that I had a really good connection with. She was a really good student, but she was getting distracted with personal problems at home because she was having a hard time like getting along with a parent, and it was like really bringing her down. It was really killing her motivation. And I remember like when I was in high school, that was a problem I had. So it was really nice to connect with her, and I was able to tell her like, hey, like it gets better. Like I promise, like when you're older and you're a little more independent, like these problems are gonna seem a lot smaller. Like, and it was just really, really nice to like try to help someone's day get better. Um, there were definitely a lot of students that just didn't want to be in school. Like they definitely did not want to graduate. They didn't want to go to college. Like there was just absolutely nothing you could do for them. And the guidance counselors basically explained to me that sometimes that's what happens. Like you can't force someone to want to graduate, and that's completely fine. Like some of these students like are perfectly content with like going to work. They have problems that are much bigger than like their test scores or their academics, and that's why these guidance counselors are there to like help them, coach them through it, and help them better understand like what they should be doing. And as a graduate of Durfee High School, I was lucky enough to be familiar with most of the staff that worked there. And it was definitely really interesting to see like how well like the school faculty keeps it together. Behind the scenes, like you don't really see how crazy and hectic it is. Like you don't see all the piles of paperwork and all the letters of recommendation that need to be done and all these tests that need to be organized. And when I was in high school, I remember that the faculty was so put together, and like they never looked stressed out. Like they would always drop what they were doing to talk to you about your problems, and it's just so interesting to see like how well they can basically fake it till they make it. It's just um the guidance department really is like the backbone of like a student's academic and like personal success, and it was really interesting to see. I could definitely see myself working in a school environment. I don't necessarily think I would want to be in guidance, just particularly it just seems like a lot to handle. Like they really do handle everything, like personal files, like your test scores, your college prep, like your scheduling, and dealing with like one student after another who wants to switch like a class out, and they get frustrated because they can't because it's too late in the term. However, I really do think that I would like to be a school adjustment counselor, just because like while it is a little more emotionally draining because you do have to deal with like the more serious problems, it's just a lot nicer to have like a one-on-one connection with only a handful of students as opposed to having to like have so many of them. Like you need to like have a one-on-one meeting with every single student. um, I think I just had a really good impression from it because the woman that was a school adjustment counselor was just absolutely amazing, and she just really had a way to connect with students, and I really hope that in my future I can like be just like her and radiate that same kind of positive energy that she had. Um, so my experience working with the guidance department at the school was amazing. I definitely would recommend it if anybody wants to know what it's like to work in the guidance department. It's a really good hands-on feeling for the education part, for the administrative part, for the counseling part. I know it really opened my eyes to like the different positions there are to be in a school. I love working with young people. That's like my preferred crowd. I would highly recommend it. Durfee High School is a wonderful school. The faculty works tirelessly to get those kids to graduate and move them on to bigger and better things. And the kids are absolutely inspiring because a lot of those kids come from not the wealthiest of families, and they come from a pretty rough city, which I live in, I grew up in, so I know hands on what it's like. And they get a pretty bad rep for it, but this school is like it's amazing. It's an incredible place to like get to know like every kind of person, every kind of staff, and I would definitely recommend it.